right, welcome back to the channel, and this is the primed version of the video now. So yes, we have primer on the car as we saw in the last video. I have already started I've started putting seam sealer. Words are getting difficult already. I put a lot of seam sealer on here. I ran out, but I'm at the point where I'm in a time crunch here where I can get seam sealer locally, but the local places want some just like 4 times the price of what it's worth. It's just stupid expensive to buy this stuff locally. I don't really have time to wait for Amazon, even though Amazon is a day. I'm on a time crunch because I've got a certain amount of time that I can get paint on top of this primer before I have to scuff it. And as you can see, this is not easy to sand or scuff, so you don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the underside of the car. I'm going to paint the front end of the car. I'm going to paint the dash as well and the A-pillars up there. So I will get to that. All right, so for paint, I'm going to be using an acrylic enamel, which is often called a single stage paint. That can be confused with single stage urethane paint. So that's why I call it acrylic enamel. And this is essentially the stuff I'm going to be using. This one is almost empty, but I will be using a product similar to this. This is really good stuff. I have no complaints with it at all. Really, really nice paint. Really nice paint. And this is the paint, and this is the hardener. Now this is not the exact stuff I'm going to be using because I'm using a satin finish, because I don't want a gloss on the underside of the car and on the engine compartment and the dash and all that. So I'm going to be using a little bit different paint, but essentially this is what I'm using. This mixes at an 8-to-1 ratio. Unlike the primer that I used last time, which is a 1-to-1, this is 8-to-1. Now, we have the traditional mixing cup here. You know, we've all seen mixing cups. Now I go through this mixing cup. I got 1-to-1, 1 to 1.5, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 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 4-to-2, 4-to-2, and 5-to-1. Don't hear an 8-to-1, do you? I go over here. I grab this one here. I have a 2-to-1, a 3-to-1, a 4-to-1, a 5-to-1, a 6-to-1, and a 7-to-1. There are a bunch of ratios on there I've never seen on anything, ever. I've never seen those ratios used on anything. But yet we have a standard 8-to-1 paint that has been around for many, many years. And it's not on these cups. Now, obviously you don't need to do that because, like on these, you've just got a 1 through 10. Well, you want an 8-to-1, you do an 8, and then you do a 9. So 8 with paint, 9 with the hardener. Done. You want to add thinner to it, you go 1 more and you add a thinner. And you could do the same thing over there with this cup here for the disposable PPS style cups. But why? Why is it that such a common type of paint, mixture of paint, is not on any of these things? And these are not the only ones. I've looked at a whole bunch of these cups, and 8-to-1 is not on here. Yes, you could use the 4-to-1 and make that work too, and just change, you know, go between the lines. But again, why? Why is that? Okay, end of the rant. So I've already started masking the car, and I'm just using masking tape. And for some of the areas, I'll be using this masking tape with the paper already attached to it because I just don't want to get overspray, you know, onto the body of the car, because this is a different paint than what I'll be using on the body of the car. So I'm going to get over here, get finish on masking it, finish masking the car. You know, many words. Now, spray gun wise, I'll just use whatever one I happen to grab. I've got that one I used on the primer, and I've got one of these too. These little Harbor Freight things. I have a couple of these. These are the ones I was talking about on the primer. They're $10. I have seen guys paint entire cars with a base coat, clear coat paint with these spray guns, and it turns out beautifully. So, yes, a $200 spray gun, a $300, $1,000 spray gun. Oh yeah, that's really nice. But you know what? You know, this thing's $10. Think about what we had 20, 30, 40 years ago. The technology you have in this $10 gun is what we had, is probably better than what we had in spray guns 30, 40 years ago. So don't discount cheap guns just because they're cheap. There are really good ones out there. Some of them are cheap just to be cheap and just not machine well. And you'll see, you know, things will be offset. But I will say these things here, I've never had an issue with them, and I use them for all sorts of things. They're just really good little spray guns. No, it's not a $500 gun. You're not going to be able to spray, you know, gallons of paint through it, but it's $10. So, well, it might be $15 or $20 now, but I think they were $10 the other day on sale. But they're just a great disposable primer gun, or other things like that. You know, if you want to use it for paint, yeah, you can do that. You have to be better at it than I am. So, you know, I sometimes for certain things, I have to have the tool make up for, you know, my lack of talent. But anyway, I'm going to set the camera up over here, and I'm going to finish masking it off the car. All right, guys, well, I've got it masked off as much as I'm going to mask it off, because it's not a huge priority at this point, because a lot of this is going to get sanded later on. But I just want to get everything painted, and yeah, so hence the bunny suit. So yeah, covered in plastic, covered paper, doing the front, the bottom, the dash, the A-pillars, and if I have paint left over, I'll blow it on the inside just to use it up. So I'm just going to do it as a time lapse and get to it, because I just want to get this done. I'll do a quick walk around and show you how it turned out. It's not bad. Okay, well, got we're up here in the engine compartment. It looks pretty good. It has actually got, I don't know how well you can see that. It has a nice, just a little bit of a gloss finish. Not too bad. I kind of like that. I think that's actually going to look okay on the dash. Now, I said I was going to paint the dash. I did not paint the dash yet. That's why that's all masked off still, because I haven't done it yet. But it all turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm happy enough with it. It'll do. Its gloss almost reminds me of the enamel paint that GM used to sell, or probably still does sell, as the Underhood Black. They sell it by the quart, and you just put it in a spray gun and spray it. So it looks pretty good. Yeah, and more graffiti. You know, one of these days I'm going to play, you know, Spot the Graffiti, how many times you see it, because she likes to come out here and write stuff on it. And as you can see, I've got the dash is pretty much ready to go. I do plan on painting it, but I do have some things to deal with, like the radio hull. I don't know what's going in there yet, so I will paint it. Worst case is I can paint it, I can do it, and I've got to fix this here. I can always repaint areas. I can repaint the whole thing, but if I get paint on there, I can always sand it, scuff it, and then make it smoother at that point too, and just redo it. It's not that big a deal. It really is not that big a deal. So this is probably going to get a push button start anyway, and that thing covers up most of this garbage that got messed up. I don't know what happened. Somebody didn't know how to take out the cylinder, didn't know what a paperclip was. So yeah, and the radio, like I don't know if I've said before, I probably have and probably cut it, but I plan on putting a 7-inch screen here, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that. It's already hacked up, so hacking it up again, not an issue. And again, it's my car, so I can do what I want with it. It's you have your car, you can do what you want with it. You can put a standard, you know, old style radio in it. I hate shaft radios. I just don't like them. So that's the end of my ranting on that. But we're pretty much here. Let me take the clamp off of it first. I have broken this clamp off a few times, so we'll take a quick look at the bottom of it here too. And it's all looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. So yeah, like I said, I'm happy with that. All right, well, it is painted. I had some issues. Um, Related to the ones I had before when I painted the primer. The compressor is fixed now. It does have a new pressure switch on it. The new pressure switch was a $14 Amazon special, and it was an exact copy of what was on this thing to start with. And this thing, that switch has been on there since the early 90s is when this compressor was made. So, you know, to run that long, and it's not bad. It's not bad. And it was bang on the pressures on the cut in and cut out of the box for 14 bucks. It works great. My next issue is that I do have a moisture issue. I have a couple of dryers that I use, and I was just constantly running, dumping those out. So I'm going to have to build some kind of moisture, separator. I thought about getting that refrigerated one from Harbor Freight back when it was under $300, but now it's like $500 or something. That's too much for what it is. So I've got a few ideas floating around. Not refrigerated as such, but cooled, and it'll be different if it works out. I don't know. I'll have to try it out, and if it works, I'll put a video up on it. If it doesn't work, we will never speak of it again. So my next step on the car is, today is Wednesday before the swap meet. Swap meet is where we'll be there Friday, so I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what's going to be there. My next video, I'm going to be working on brake lines, because I want to get brake lines run to the back. Maybe get some of the ones run up side to side. I had to go back and look at pictures because I can't remember how they run. And I did dig up my brackets, which have already powder coated, so they're up, good, ready to go. And the reason I got to get my brake lines on is brake lines, and I've got to figure out what I want to do for fuel lines. This car is going to be fuel ejected, so I do not know if I want to use a standard fuel line, 3/8 fuel line for a Mustang, or just make it from scratch. To be honest, looking at the brake lines that I have for this, I might just be better off getting some 3/8 tubing, bending it up, and making it from scratch. I got to find my 3/8 benders. I know where my 3/16 ones are for brake lines, but I don't know where my 3/8 are, so I'll need that. I'll need a straightener to straighten the pipe out as well, unless I can find some really long pre-bent pieces or unbent pieces that are sticks. Down here in Texas, we don't have the ability to get those easily. I know when I would go to auto parts stores up north, I could go to any auto parts store and they had a huge display of brake lines in all different lengths, nice little sticks of them. That doesn't exist here. They do not sell them here. So, because the brake lines last the life of the car here, and then some. So that's why they don't sell them. Exhaust usually lasts the life of the car here as well. As you see, they last a long time here. But so yeah, that's kind of where we're at. If you got any tips on what I should do for fuel line, fuel tank as well, I want to go with the 70 fuel tank, which is the larger fuel tank. I cringe at what the fuel injection tanks cost, so maybe I'll go with a regular tank and put my own sending unit in it, and with a pump at the bottom, figure out something on that and do my own. I don't know. It's kind of some of the other projects I want to do. Power windows I'd like to do. I may end up building my own power windows. Again, $1,500 for 4 windows, for the vent windows as well. It's a little too much for what it is. So I'll quit rambling, and hopefully we'll get bed liner and undercoating and brake lines and fuel lines and all that stuff on the bottom of this car, and we'll get to doing some body work on the rest of the car, doing some more filler, which I've already started, because that's not my forte. I can do it. I'm just really slow at it. It's like me doing drywall. All right, guys. Well, it's 2 days later, 3 days later, and I'll interrupt me working on the bottom of the car here, because I painted it and I started working on this. I tried filming some of this. I don't know if any of it's going to be usable, but I'm trying to get this brake line figured out because it's interesting. But yesterday was the swap meet trip at Pate. I came home with a really big haul of stuff. 1 can of hardener. And inflation, yeah, that's tough. This stuff is 22 bucks. A year ago it was 15. So that's what, 50%? increase. Yeah, this stuff got expensive. I was looking for some stuff. I was looking for some bed liner to spray on the bottom or undercoating. I'll go either way. I don't care at this point. Nobody had either one of them. So I'll still have to order something or just not do it at all. I don't know. Um, One of the other items I was looking for, I was hoping to find some of these guys. Well, this is the better side that I have. And the ones that I found were 85, 90 bucks or more, and they weren't worse shape than this. So it's like at that point, you know, 100 bucks for a new one. I don't want a new one. I'd like to have a nice pair of usable factory ones because they do have nice sharper pieces of, you know, detail in here, and they do fit better. But generally they're all broken out here. So yeah, didn't find what I wanted on these. Yeah, I just didn't find anything I wanted. I did take a few pictures of cars. I'll put them in here in a little bit. Probably at the end of the video. There's a couple interesting cars. It was a really cool Rambler wagon, all original paint, original interior, beautiful looking car. Just a little bit of rust in the quarters. That was it. I mean, I would have just driven it the way it was. Nice car.